In this demonstration, we're going to cover a couple of different use cases with AtScale. First, we're going to use AtScale, which is hosted in the Snowflake marketplace as a native app in the Snowflake Container Services deployment. This is going to give us a managed version of AtScale. We're going to then leverage a Snowflake cost model that is residing in the SML repo out in GitHub that we can leverage in order to deploy in AtScale and get a better view and insight into how the costs are being defined within Snowflake. Then we're going to use a couple of different BI tools and some methodologies to inspect that data and see some of the ways that we can gain some insights via that deployed model. So to start with, we've got our Snowflake marketplace here. So I'm not going to go through the entire installation of this. We've got other videos that show that, but basically it's a click-through process with a Streamlit app in order to get deployed. So we'll go to my deployed app, my native app here, and get into that Streamlit app. Again, there's other components here. You can do things like check logs and manage the container services that exist. But in our case, we're just going to get logged right in. So this will take us into our hosted version of AtScale. Now, what I want to do is a couple things. First of all, we've done some initial setup here already. I've already set up in my global settings things like using XMLA, so I can leverage that for my Power BI connections, using those settings. So what we want to do is I'm going to start with deploying that Snowflake model. So if I go to my SML repo, I can see down at the bottom here, outside of all the SML discussion and documentation, a couple of different models that we've published. So I'm going to look at that Snowflake usage model. And what I want to do is link this repo back into AtScale. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and link that. I'm going to call this my cost model, put my repo in, and link that up. So now with just that simple process, I've now linked that repo here, so I can now leverage that and use it with my Snowflake. I've already got a Snowflake connection set up, so I've got my Snowflake connection here, which is connecting back to my deployed Snowflake instance. So now all I'm going to need to do is make a couple small edits to this to, as you see down here, update the connections, get that connected back to my Snowflake, and deploy it for us to leverage it in our BI and analytics tools. Connection, just to point it at the right place. So we're going to change that here to match the connection that I've created. Save that, and you can see our error is gone. We got a couple of these other components that we can go through and fix, but they're not required for our demo here. But in a perfect world, you should be going through and fixing all your errors. So we can look at our Snowflake cost model, and then we can see the actual model here. We can see the components that exist within it. So this has all been pre-configured. You can see the different metrics that we have and dimensions that we've pre-created in order for you to review the utilization of your Snowflake data warehouses and check out the costs that are associated. So what we can do now is we can, again, what we should do is make sure all of these look proper. We look pretty good to ourselves. Once we're satisfied with that, we can deploy it, and we'll deploy that model. And what we'll see is as soon as that's done, we have our deploy successful, and we can look at that here and see the different credentials in order to get connected. So now we've got our model deployed. We can start to leverage our different BI tools to look at that model and work with it within the ability to introspect that data and figure out where our costs are being associated. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll use our newly deployed model and we'll leverage Tableau as our interface to explore that data. So we'll download our TDS file from our connection details and our deployed catalogs and go ahead and open that up with our Tableau desktop. One of the things to note is you'll see once we get this popped up, it will ask us for login credentials because we're accessing this live. This is a live query that's happening from Tableau through AtScale. So we get connected, and now what we'll be able to see is all of those dimensions and metrics that were in our deployed model from that cost model that we got from the SML repo. You can see all those here. So go ahead and take a look at the total costs. I can add that into my view. I'll add some warehouse names, and now I can start to see in our traditional sense the different values associated and how that breaks down. So now I can use this. I can get more detailed. I can dig in deeper, figure out where my costs might be optimized, and how I can leverage that going forward. So this is in our traditional BI sense. We also have things where you can get Power BI or Excel or any of the third party via our JDBC connections. Now, what I want to highlight though is a newer methodology in order to connect via AtScale to some other third party tools. And that's going to be using our MCP server. So we can take that and we can see I'm going to feed it the details of my Postgres endpoint for my AtScale instance, and that will start that right up. So now I've got an AtScale MCP server running in the background, which I can leverage to introspect my models and get some additional details. In our case, I'm going to use Claude in this demo to use that deployed set of models to start to work with our interfaces. Now, how have I done that? A couple things I've had to do ahead of time. What we've done is inside of Claude, I've added a separate developer section where I've given it, again, that same set of details on my, my commands on how Claude can use that. Once that's been set up, I can go back into Claude and I can see I've got that AtScale MCP server and all my capabilities where I can get some database info, I can do my queries, I can list what objects I've got available and describe what they can do. Let's go ahead and ask some questions. So this will go ahead and it will start to give us the details about what we actually have as far as the models available that have been deployed that Claude can query via AtScale. So we'll see that with the tools that we had seen previously in the Claude config, that we can get the cube info, we can get the different cube details, we can get the description of what those cubes have, and here we'll start to see the details that come back. So this will give me the information around that cube, or the model, excuse me, that we're leveraging. And this is also useful for deploying this internally, that you have the ability for users to see more information about what types of things are public, which types of things they can actually leverage. So now let's start to get some additional details here. So let's say, so I can give it some specifics, again, because not only do I know the model, but I know what type of details I want to see and I want the data to be represented properly. So with the description of those different models, I can select that and start to use it in my management of Claude and getting the details that I care about within this conversation. All right, and now I can start to, again, now that I've got this detail and I've got access to it, I can now leverage Claude to start to do more introspection and give me some more details on this. So let's say, so now not only can I look at the data and I can view it, but I'm going to leverage the tools that I have in order to give me a path forward to actually do something proactive about this. So it's going to use the tools and the intelligence that it has. And lastly, what I want to do is create a shareable artifact. So now again, I'm going to leverage the tools benefits, and we're going to now build something that I can use, I can share, I can view, I can pass around. So this is really that next level, that next phase of business intelligence and analytics, is using this as an intelligent conversation around the data where I can get some action items, I can get some plans, I can share it in a way that works for my enterprise and my company, and leverage this to now have a plan to move forward with. I can do this with, again, this is my cost model for Snowflake, but you can imagine this could be any model data that you have inside your organization. So again, really fairly simple setup, fairly simple and straightforward to use, all hosted in our Snowflake native app, and you leveraging an MCP server to start to connect in the different LLMs and tools that my company allows, and not be locked in by a vendor lock-in choice saying I only can use these sets of tools available. This gives you the access through the universal semantic layer to any tools you want, and leveraging that one easy access through the MCP server.